Okay, everyone, I'm Michael Makrowitz with Coldwell Banker Realty. This is your ultimate guide to selling your home. From start to finish, I wanted to make this a little bit easier to understand because, selling your home can be a complex and stressful process. I want to make this as easy to understand as possible to really set you up for success when the time comes to have as successful and as quick and as straightforward of a transaction as possible, also setting you up to get the best price that the market conditions will allow for. So over time, I've figured out the process from start to finish of how best to accomplish this. And I was making an Instagram post, and as I was writing what we had done to get the home sold, I was like, oh, this is a lot of alliteration, but it makes sense. So I came up with the 4 P's of successful home selling, which are planning, preparation, presentation, and pricing. Now, whether you are selling the first property that you ever bought or you have experience selling multiple properties, these tips will be very helpful for you to be able to approach this process with confidence. Now, step number 1 is planning. Before even considering putting your property on the market, the planning is key, not only for yourself to be aware of what to expect and how best to go about it, but also for your realtor to help understand how best to serve you through the entire process. Because this step involves assessing your goals, understanding the market conditions, and enlisting the help of different professionals for each stage along the way to make sure that you're set up as best as possible. Now, first step is determining the goals that you have of why you're selling. What are the objectives? Are you downsizing? Are you buying a bigger property? Are you cashing out and retiring and moving out of the area? Are you selling an investment property to reinvest in real estate in a different area or in a different industry? Understanding the motivations is what helps you plan accordingly for that transaction, because details might change based on why you're making the choice that you are. For example, I had a recent sale in Los Gatos, and my clients had turned it into an investment property. And at the beginning or the end of last year, 2022, we started to talk about the idea of selling it. And that was my first question is, why are you considering selling this prime location in Los Gatos? So they had bought another home and they had had it as a rental, and they were just becoming more and more frustrated with their tenant and the idea of trying to manage this property from somewhat of a distance, and realizing it might be better for us to be selling this property and either reinvesting in a different way or to be buying a property closer to where they live now. The next thing that we did was assess the market conditions. Part of this conversation involved looking at some of the recent sales to try to get an idea of what the value of their property was, to see if they would have the money to reinvest in the way that they wanted. And it was also talking about seasonal trends of, if they were to sell, what is the best time to do that from a seasonal real estate market aspect. Now, next step in this planning process is engaging with professionals to see if this is actually a good financial decision. This is something that my clients were trying to decide what to do in this case, because they had lived in it for 2 out of the last 5 years, so it could still qualify as a primary residence. As a married couple, they had a $500,000 capital gains tax exemption. They were deciding, is it better to approach it from that standpoint of selling as previously having been a primary residence, or since they now had it rented, to do a 1031 exchange and defer the taxes that they would be paying by rolling that into another property. So I had them speak with my CPA, who gave them great advice and ultimately decided that it would be better to take advantage of that $500,000 capital gains tax exemption. And this is one of the reasons why this planning stage is so important. You don't want to get to the end of a transaction and realize that you've opened yourself up to potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. If you plan accordingly at the beginning, there's not going to be any surprises further on down the line. Now, the final step in this planning was creating a listing timeline. I find that if you're looking to sell in a few months or in a year, if you have an idea of what needs to be accomplished leading up to that, it's more digestible. It gives you benchmarks of when certain things need to be accomplished, so that when you're getting close to that time when you actually want to be on the market, you're not scrambling last minute to make sure everything is set and ready to go. So what that looked like for my client selling in Los Gatos was, since it was tenant occupied, we knew what the move out date was. We decided, let's use that as the kind of starting point. Let's work back from that. What needs to be accomplished? So that was doing a walkthrough just to see if there was any improvements or repairs, since it was rented, that we needed to do prior to going on the market, that we could either try to do while they were still living there, things like cleaning up the yard, things that weren't too invasive for them still living in the home, but still getting things ready to when their move out date came, we were ready to go. And then knowing what that move out date was, planning everything after that. So getting the professional cleaner in there, getting the stager in there, getting the photographer in there, and then being on the market. We knew what date we wanted to be on the MLS. We knew what date the tenant would be moving out, and that informed everything that we did to plan for those steps in the process. Now, the next P in this 4P process is preparation. So this is a crucial step in the process because you are trying to present your home in the best light possible. This involves making necessary repairs. It means increasing the curb appeal. It means having everything done to present your home in the best light possible to make it as attractive to the largest number of buyers that you can. So first thing, work on necessary repairs and improvements that you can do to the property. And I always say prioritize what you're going to do. I've had some people ask me, oh, we've considered adding solar to increase the value of our home. I've found that that's not really a value add in terms of the price that you get. It is a selling feature. It's nice in reducing your monthly PG&E bill, but in terms of selling for a higher price, it's not effective. I wouldn't put your money towards that. What I found over time, the best return that you get for your investment is painting, flooring, and light fixtures. I find that a lot of the preparation and improvements that you make to a property are not so much about adding additional selling features as they are removing barriers or reasons why a buyer might not want to write an offer on your home. Just the perception of the home being cleaner and brighter goes a long way in getting a better price. Now, from a repair standpoint, there's certain things that you don't need to worry about fixing. If there's an active plumbing leak, I say definitely get that taken care of right away. There's some big ticket items like a crack in a foundation. You kind of have to weigh the cost and the timing of getting something like that repaired to how many buyers are going to be turned off by that problem existing. Now, next, you want to enhance your curb appeal. The exterior of your home is going to be the first thing that buyers see. From that front photo on the MLS or whatever industry website that they go to, from the video to driving up to see the home in person, the front is what their first impression of your home is going to be, and that needs to be appealing to them. So this could involve cleaning up the landscaping, mowing, adding flowers, adding color, cleaning windows, maybe repainting the front door. These are all things that will go a long way to increase that curb appeal when someone first comes up to the home. Now, final step in this preparation, and this can come before doing a lot of this, is getting inspections. Now, I cannot stress the importance of this enough. When I'm in a listing appointment, this is something I always make a point to bring up because, number one, it allows you to know what possible issues your home might have. If it's something that's either small enough that it's easy to take care of or big enough that you want to address it, you know what the problem is and you can take care of it. At the very least, you know what to disclose so that buyers are aware. But most importantly, it allows buyers to write more confident, serious offers, and it also takes away a potential bargaining mechanism for a buyer to renegotiate with you after their offer is accepted. If you provide these inspections up front, buyers are fully aware of whatever issues might exist. They can either factor that into the price that they write, but they're also much more confident to write an offer with no contingencies if they know everything about the home. If inspections are not provided, they are going to do their own inspections. And when they inevitably find something, what may not have been a big deal before, they are going to either ask for repairs or they are going to renegotiate with you on price. I have seen this cost sellers tens of thousands of dollars by not providing these inspections up front. And I use myself as an example. When I bought my home, there were 5 offers on the home. They didn't provide any inspections. We got inspections done. We found that there was about $10,000 worth of termite work, and we asked for a reduction in the sales price of $15,000. They agreed to this. Had they provided those inspections up front, and I knew I was competing with multiple other offers for the property, I think I just would have said, this is something I need to deal with. I'll deal with it when I can. But at the point that my offer was accepted, those other buyers had moved on. I was in a position more to renegotiate with the seller. That is exactly what I want to help you avoid. Now, the next important P in this process is presentation. Presenting your home in the best possible light is essential for attracting as many buyers as possible. This involves staging. It involves high quality marketing materials. It means getting as much exposure through different media outlets as possible and also making the property as available for showings as possible. So step number 1 in this presentation is staging. Now this is always a weird one because you realize how emotionally driven and visually driven real estate can be. Is the furniture included in the sale? No, but it allows the buyer to envision how space should be used in a cohesive and consistent way. And from questionnaires and studies that they've done, they've found that homes sell for a higher price and more quickly when they are staged. I've seen different percentages as far as what kind of impact it has. I think that those are sometimes exaggerated, but from my personal experience, staging is going to cost you usually somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. I think the value that you add to the final sales price of your home is about $50,000. Now, a big reason I think just buyers have a really hard time envisioning how a space should be used unless you're presenting that to them. I've seen buyers sit in a living room for 30 minutes trying to figure out which wall they should put a TV on. When people see this presented, it takes away any questions that they have about how the room could and should be set up. And also just through maximizing natural light in a home, by using neutral colors, by creating a warm and inviting space, that translates to the photos of the property and the video and seeing it in person, and the whole perception of that property is transformed by having the staging in place. Which brings us to the next point: professional photos and video. Now, I work with excellent professional photographers who are trying to highlight the best features about that home. First impression that a buyer is usually getting of your home is seeing it online, looking through the photos to get a sense. Video is also so important because they found that buyers will engage with a property for a significantly longer period of time if there is video highlighting features of the home. Sometimes it's also appropriate to do like a 360 virtual tour where a buyer can click through and get the feeling of walking through and an understanding of the floor plan before they even visit the home. Too often I see, property photos where some are taken in landscape and some are taken in portrait, and the lighting is different on different photos, and some are using a fisheye lens. You want consistency, not only in how the photo is taken, you want the aspect ratios to be the same, you want the filter to be the same. Every aspect of the presentation you want to be consistent and as appealing to potential buyers as possible. Another important thing is having a property website. I use a property specific website on every home that I sell. It's just nice to have a comprehensive informational source where people can go for the details. Next, and very important, is having multi-channel exposure. From the MLS to industry websites like Zillow or Redfin, to social media advertising, to print advertising, to email campaigns, to targeted marketing campaigns, even word of mouth. The more exposure you get for the home, the more people are going to come and visit. The more people that come and visit, the more people are likely to write offers. The more offers that you have, the higher the price you're going to receive. Now, finally, in this category, an aspect that I don't think a lot of people think about, but it has an impact on the price that you get, and that is the opportunities to actually visit the property. Every aspect of this presentation is to increase the exposure that your property is getting. Once people know about it, they're attracted to it and they want to see it. If they don't have an opportunity to actually see it, they're not going to write an offer. Now, ideally, it's best to have the house vacant. Agents can come and go whenever their clients are available because, especially in our area in Silicon Valley, people traveling for work, it may be, my clients are in town for this weekend, and if they can't see it, they're not going to be writing an offer. Obviously, many times people are still living in the home, and it needs to be by appointment only. I usually say, hey, we're going to tell people in the private comments on the MLS to give an hour's notice prior to showing your home. But I have seen cases where someone's looking at a house around the corner, they're like, oh, we just drove by, we want to take a look, is now an okay time? The more available you make your property to be seen, the more people you get through the door, generally you're going to do better on price. And that's just for private showings. For open houses, great to do both Saturday and Sunday, and even doing some maybe midweek evening open houses to just have more opportunities to see the home. Now, the final step in this home selling process, pricing. You can execute all of these other steps perfectly. If you ignore proper pricing, it can completely derail smooth selling process. So this proper pricing involves understanding of the market conditions, understanding of the homes that have sold in the area, and also having realistic expectations. Now, first thing that you want to start with is what we call in the industry a comparative market analysis, a CMA, but it's basically an analysis of the valuation of your home based on similar homes that have sold in the area. So, you're taking into account the size, the location, school district, condition of the home. And I know that we have, industry websites like Zillow and Redfin that will give you an idea of the number. I do like looking at these just to see how they estimate it. But what I found is actually knowing the details of those comparable or as close as they can be properties, and also the circumstances under which they sold is really important to the valuation of a property. These industry websites are not taking that into account. I mean, you might see a home that sells for well over what could possibly be expected it to sell for. I've seen cases where that's happened because the buyer was a woman who was 8 months pregnant. They didn't want to still be looking for a home with a new baby. They were willing to pay over what the perceived and even appraised value of the property was in order to have the certainty of knowing where they were going to live. I've also seen it go the other way, where I saw a beautiful home sell for a far lower price than what I would have expected, only to find that they had some serious issues, like with a foundation that impacted the price that they were able to get, that when you just look through the photos, you didn't get that impression. This is why it's important. Work with your realtor, let them know about the improvements that you've made to the property that might not even be seen. Another essential aspect is avoiding overpricing. Now, I've had people say to me, let's price it a little bit higher because that gives us some room to negotiate down. And what I've found is this strategy does not work because instead of buyers just submitting a lower offer, it actually discourages them from submitting an offer entirely. There's no sense of urgency that's created, and that property will continue to sit, becoming stale, becoming almost part of the landscape, and it's going to prolong your time on market. The longer that it sits, buyers have this impression that, well, there must be something wrong with this home. There might be nothing wrong with your home aside from the fact that the price just began too high. But generally, the longer that a home sits on the market, the lower the price that it's going to sell for. Now, at the same time, you also have to be somewhat cautious about underpricing. While this can be a very effective strategy and has been for the last 10 years because we have had such high demand and such limited inventory, it can, and I've seen it backfire when buyers weren't motivated or you didn't have enough offers to push the price up. Now, this is still currently a fairly effective strategy because we've had such low inventory, but depending on the market conditions, this can completely change. That's why it's important to discuss with your realtor what's currently happening, how do they expect the market to change, and strategize accordingly. Now, finally, be willing to adjust the price as needed based on market conditions, based on what you're seeing in the moment, It might seem like you're right on target as far as where the price should be. Market conditions can change. There's so many different factors, but the market and the showings and the feedback from buyers and agents will let you know pretty quickly if you have the right price or not. If it's apparent from feedback and just from showing and activity that your price is incorrect, be ready to make that adjustment, because the sooner that you do it, the less time you're spending on the market. The chances of you getting a good price are increased. So all of these steps, interlock, and they propel you towards getting the best price that you can in that market in the quickest time possible, and also avoiding any renegotiations or buyers backing out mid-transaction. By following these steps, you're maximizing the chances of you getting the maximum exposure of buyers that are looking for that type of property, generating the most interest, and achieving a successful sale. This is something I always try to focus on with my clients, and I don't do this single-handedly. Over time, I've built a database and a team from title and escrow to contractors to painters to photographers to financial advisors. I want my clients to have a resource for every single step along the way, from just thinking about it and planning to execution and completion. Now, depending on where you are in the process, if you want access to any of the people on my team or in my database that would be of help for you, let me know. And if you want to meet to start the first step of planning, let me know as well. So hopefully this was something of value. If I can help in any other way, again, let me know.